lost control of the House.
I have not lost control.
Here, I'll just make it clear. Leader Johnson is not in control of his caucus.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is losing control of his caucus, and he's panicking about it. Even Fox News is having a hard time spinning it.
Lost control of the House.
I have not lost control.
Because this is the third time.
Look, we have the smallest majority in U.S. history. Okay? These are not normal times. There are processes and procedures in the House that are less frequently used when there are larger majorities. And when you have the luxury of having 10 or 15 people who disagree on something, you don't have to deal with it. But when you have a razor-thin margin, as we do, all the procedures in the book, people think are on the table, and that's different. So,
the Speaker of the House is long considered to be one of the most powerful positions in the country. The House is where laws originate. It's where impeachment process begin. Speaker of the House is third in line for the presidency. But Mike Johnson lately isn't acting like he's powerful. He's not even acting like he's in control. He seems to know this because his press questions that he gets, they used to have a lot of bluster and confidence. Now he seems to just be running away from them.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. A constituent in my district in Middletown is going to be paying more for health insurance than he does for his mortgage. Let's cut right to the chase. This is about a vote. The American people, this great democracy that we live in, this once chamber that could actually discuss and debate issues, Speaker Johnson should be bringing this bill to the floor today. Do you have the courage to vote, or are you going to run and hide? You have 4 of you who stood up and said, you know what, in a democracy, this deserves a vote. Listen carefully, American people, how they decry this bill, and yet they won't even have a vote.
As we know, Mike Johnson wasn't exactly the first pick by the Republicans for Speaker. It took weeks of votes, 4 rounds to be exact, back in 2023. Just about 2 years ago, he managed to hold on to power because he was willing to do Trump's bidding. But as Trump's popularity has gone down, his power has vastly weakened. First major crack was the Epstein discharge petition, where Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna and others decided to take matters into their own hands because Trump and Bondi and Johnson said nothing to see here, despite the fact that there was a whole lot to actually see. They decided to get enough signatures on a discharge petition to make law, which they did. Well, that turned out to be such a good idea that Hakeem Jeffries just did the same thing with the Affordable Care Act. Perhaps now the members and not the speaker will be running things. That might actually help us all. Well, rather than Mike Johnson actually hold a vote on something that the American people really care about, not having their premiums go up January 1st, he decides instead to have them start their winter holiday break early. This is how little control and power he has. Could you imagine if Nancy Pelosi allowed the members to run the House instead of her? She at least knew how to lead.
Mr. Speaker, do you condemn Trump's post about Rob Reiner?
What are your thoughts about what President Trump said about Rob Reiner at his press conference today?
I don't do ongoing commentary about everything that's said by everybody in government every day.
We are the president of the United States.
We are trying to bring down health care costs for the American people. They're very important votes, very important issues, and that's what we're focused on.
A lot of your members are criticizing him.
I gave commentary this morning, and you all heard it. Thank you.
Perhaps one of the more telling questions posed to Mike Johnson to show actually how weak he is, how little he has of his own power, how much he tries to basically curry favor with Trump to hope he holds on to the gavel, is his response to whether or not Trump response to Rob Reiner and his wife's killing, allegedly by their child, was appropriate. Mike Johnson, who's so willing to comment on really everything, certainly commented on everything regarding Charlie Kirk's death, all of a sudden felt like it wasn't appropriate him to comment on something that Trump had said. Now, let's be really clear. The thing that Trump said was incredibly evil. Right the day after, within hours, basically, of their bodies being found by their daughter, allegedly by the hands of their other child, Trump says one of the most hateful and evil things, that somehow their hatred of Trump is what caused their son to do this. Like a both extremely narcissistic and extremely hateful thing to say. Mike Johnson is constantly out there talking about his Christianity, talking about his morals, talking about, frankly, his own son and how much he's trying to keep his son in check regarding pornography. Certainly, this family man, this man who says all of his actions have to do with trying to live this good life, would have something to say about what Trump said with the Reiners, considering that Mike Johnson has something to say about anything these days. It just goes to show how spineless he is and why we are seeing the cracks we are. Because if you're not willing to even stand within your own morals, the ones that you say you have, this was not easy to denounce. I mean, this was not a hard thing to denounce. You saw actually people across the political aisles denounce this because it was so bad. If you are unwilling to denounce this, it just shows how much your values are for sale.
I mean, we didn't note it yet, but Mike Johnson completely lost control of his caucus this morning. He had a 4-person rebellion. Maybe it'll be even more once this ACA subsidy vote happens, the 3-year extension. Leader Jeffries completely played him, right? He didn't go for any of the discharge petitions, the Fitzpatrick bill. He said, I'm going to wait it out for my 3-year extension. And then he got Fitzpatrick, Lawler, et cetera, to fold and to come over to his side. And now there's going to be a vote. I don't know what Senator Thune
I'm not sure anybody knows anything about what you just said. I mean, I do, but I mean, it's like pretty...
Well, here, I'll just make it clear. Leader Johnson is not in control of his caucus.
Okay.
Jessica Tarlov, the one sane, reasonable person on that Fox roundtable, usually is out on a limb trying to defend truth, trying to defend accuracy, trying to defend the democracy. But she always gets pushback from her conservative commentators there because they don't like, usually, the facts that she has to say. But interestingly, when she points out the fact that Mike Johnson was so clearly played by Hakeem Jeffries, how so many moderate Republicans came over and joined Hakeem Jeffries because Mike Johnson was so unwilling to propose something reasonable that would help Americans get health care in reasonable costs. Those Republicans knew that they would lose at the midterms if they didn't propose something. Mike Johnson, unwilling to compromise in any reasonable way, basically forced Hakeem Jeffries to do this, and Hakeem Jeffries was more than willing to do it. So she points this out on the roundtable, and for once, her colleagues have nothing to say because even they realize that there is no defense, no excuse for Mike Johnson, and probably also realize that this means Mike Johnson is probably in the beginning of his way out.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.